What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, look, it's come to my attention that this is already starting up. And what am I talking about? This debate about Luka Doncic being now better than Larry Bird, better than Julius Erving, just below LeBron James on an all-time level. And, you know, it's very grating. It's very nerve-wracking. And I can't help but mostly blame the mainstream sports media for this. They have to create this atmosphere of always debating every little topic for every little thing. People, and it's not even, and usually when people are debating now, it's really arguing. They really argue. It's not even a respectful, civil debate anymore. People argue about and hate other people that they don't know, or cuss people out about people that wouldn't stop to spit on you half the time. I understand debating a point, man, but it's gotten to the point where it's nauseating now. Can't we just enjoy the moment of watching Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving go up against the Boston Celtics? Hopefully this is an entertaining series. Hopefully it doesn't suck. Hopefully it's not one-sided. Hopefully it's competitive. And hopefully the referees don't choose to, take over the game, inject themselves and try to take over the game. But having said all of that, I can't help but think that Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless have greatly helped to increase what we see today. When I was coming up, man, teenagers like myself at the time, or kids, whatever, we didn't sit up there and try to out-argue older people about sports history and placing people from it. We didn't do that. Why? Because we knew that our uncles, our grandfathers, Neil at the barber shop, you know what I'm saying? We knew that these guys had a lot more knowledge and history behind them than we did. Now, of course, you occasionally have people like myself that'll do their homework, but I still didn't know anything like I do today at age 43 when I was 17, when it comes to sports history. I knew more than most, but no, I've forgotten much more than I knew then. So then you have the people who are supposedly the gatekeepers of history. When I was growing up, the people who wrote about sports, they at least had some decades of historical knowledge behind them. Now you got people who either have agendas or they don't know what they're talking about half the time, and you can't trust what they're putting out there. Sometimes they're just promoting a product, masquerading as a defender of history. So now we got this Luka is better than Larry Bird stuff. Or he's better than Dr. J. At this point, can we even say he's better than Dirk Nowitzki? Well, look, you could argue he's a better basketball player. You could argue that. But last time I checked, Dirk Nowitzki has over 31,000 points. I think Dirk has over 10,000 rebounds. But aside from the numbers, Dirk is the only Dallas Maverick to lead a team to a championship. Until Luka does that, can we really even say definitively he's the greatest Maverick? The most talented? Sure. But the greatest? No. I mean, Dirk hasn't even won an MVP award. And let's stop disrespecting our legends. It's this instant gratification generation that wants everything to be today to be better than what it was before. Everything. Look, I can't argue about technology. Things from technology, from a technological standpoint, things today are far more advanced than they were in the past. You know? But you could also argue it wouldn't be a 2 raw video without a beat, would it? You could also argue that technology is making us lazier and weaker. I think I've made this point before. You know, back in the 30s and 40s, when, say, Joe Louis fought Billy Conn, and some households, people still couldn't afford to buy a radio. So you know what they did? They left their homes. They would put on their Sunday's finest. They left their home. The father would put on a cap. The kid will put on a nice, not a suit, he'll dress up nice. And the family would, especially the kid and the father, if not the whole family, at least the father and the son, or the sons, they would walk perhaps 10 blocks to whatever the nearest mall was. And it was stand outside. And the person that owned the mall would play the radios, or play the radio, maybe a bigger radio, whatever. And they would listen to the fight. They would listen to the Billy Conn, Joe Louis fight, and they would walk back home. So even then, guess what? They were getting exercise. And they weren't really eating. They didn't really have food, maybe something to drink, but that's what they did. Even if the ones who had radios in their home, they would get up, listen to the radio, family would listen to the radio, and that was it. They have to, and plus, with the radio, you would have to envision and picture the fight. Because when you were a broadcaster back in the radio broadcast, you have to try to describe the fight. You had to describe it so that you could illuminate a picture for the audience. Then television came. Well, back then, you still had to get up and get up and turn the television on. Remember, we only had 2 or 3 choices back then. ABC, I think NBC, CBS, ABC, and the DeMont Network, which folded a couple of years into the 50s. Then the same deal for people who didn't have television. They had to go to the malls, or go wherever they can see a TV and watch a program. But then technology started making us lazier. Then came the remote control. No longer had to get up. You could just sit down. Then people started thinking, well, wait a minute. I could try to recreate the movie experience. I can have a popcorn or some chips and sit back and watch the television. Then came the recliners. I can be comfortable now and sit for hours after a hard day's work. But at least still, you had fewer channels, and you still had to get up to turn the TV off. The remote only turned the channels. Then you had the remotes that could turn the TV off. Now, of course, we got thousands of choices, and you could literally nowadays, because manual labor jobs are still out there, but people can work from home. You can literally get no exercise. And while we have the greatest technology in the world, 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. So yeah, technology is a great thing, but it's come at a price. So I say all of that to say that there's always a yin to the yang to everything. I didn't mean to go into this rant in this video, but I just want to make that point. Now look, talking about Julius Erving and Larry Bird. First of all, Larry Bird won 3 MVP awards. Last time I checked, Luka had none. Larry Bird has 3 championships. Last time I checked, Luka still has none. Bird has 2 finals MVPs. Luka has none. Bird averaged 24, 10, and 6 for his career. Now, Luka does average 28 plus, I think something like 8 and 8 for his career. So the stats are better. From a matchup, from a comparison standpoint, Luka has a better handles, obviously. Luka's stronger. I would say, Luka is bulkier. Bird was taller, 6'9.5". Bird was a better rebounder. Bird was a better defender. Bird was a better shooter. Bird was a better three-point shooter, mid-range shooter, post player. Bird could score with his back to the basket. Bird could score with either hand. Bird was a better free throw shooter. Bird was a better facilitator, in my opinion, though Luka can pass. Luka has better assist numbers. But I think if you watch the games, Bird was a better passer. And if he had the ball as much as Luka had, he could have averaged a triple-double. Remember, Danny Ainge was on those teams. He was averaging 4 assists himself, or something to that effect, 3 or 4 assists. And Dennis Johnson was averaging 4 or 5 assists. So if Bird had the ball half the time, or damn near all the time, he could have averaged a triple-double. Bird was more clutch, whatever. People, when it comes to Julius Erving, they tend to only look at his NBA numbers. They don't look at his ABA career. When you look at his ABA career, Julius Erving scored over 30,000 career points. He had over, 8,000 plus rebounds, maybe approaching 9,000, 2,000 steals, about 2,000 blocks. Altogether, I think he won 3 championships, if I'm not mistaken. I think he won 4. I got to look at the numbers again. I think he won 3 or 4 championships. I think he had altogether 3 or 4 MVP awards, if you include the ABA. Julius Erving has a real legitimate argument as the greatest small forward of all time, if you could look at his ABA and NBA careers. People are really sleeping on Dr. J as far as how much of a transformative figure he was when it came to sports. He was the guy who helped to popularize the dunk. Remember, before him, the game was more conservative. The game was more on the ground. Now, you had Elgin Baylor, but, back then the dunk was still frowned upon. Julius Erving popularized the dunk. They really, to be honest with you, they created the slam dunk contest, the ABA, really to feature Dr. J as a last-ditch effort to save the ABA. It didn't work, but the NBA incorporated that for a reason. Dr. J was the only reason why the NBA was even surviving before the arrival of Bird and Magic. And so to see this guy get so disrespected by these new age nincompoops, it irritates me. But yeah, let's just enjoy the moment. Let's stop all these stupid comparisons. Stop listening to Stephen A. Smith and all these other cheerleaders who are there just to promote a product. Remember, Stephen A. Smith, this guy who is now singing Luka's praises, this company man. Remember, this is the same dude that just said a couple weeks ago that Luka's spot in the All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken, or the All-NBA team, one of those statements, should have been taken by Jalen Brunson. Remember that? If I remember correctly, I think he said either Luka's All-NBA selection or his All-NBA selection should have been no, I think it was All-NBA first team selection. He said Luka's All-NBA first team selection should have been taken by Jalen Brunson. I think that's what he said. He just said that. Now all of a sudden, Luka is, in his eyes, the best player in the NBA. But you just said Luka's All-NBA first team selection should have been taken by Jalen Brunson. Who, by the way, you just said had the greatest run ever by a little man. And he didn't even get out of the second round. Don't listen to Stephen A. Smith and the Skip guy. They're just talking, man. They just company man promoting products. Stephen A. Smith talking about the Knicks. He don't even watch the games. It's clear as day that he don't even watch the games, but you know what I'm saying, he's this, that, and the other. Whatever, man. Man, I'm done with my rant. Tell me what you guys think.